Hey, how you all doing? This is Fauskellam. This video is going to be unedited, unscripted. So you're just going to have to deal with me stammering my way through this video. So this is a series that I am making for a buddy of mine. Tyler, he's a guy at work. So I can teach him about Warhammer 40,000. So I know I haven't recorded in a few days, but I've been sick. I don't excuse me. I don't know what I did or what happened. I just in my throat, the lymph node on the left side just started swelling, started hurting, and then I just started producing like this yellow mucus and stuff. It's pretty bad. Been having a fever, not feeling well. So yesterday I didn't make a video. The day before, I usually make videos at night and post them. So that one is just, I was doing stuff with my brother. And then now is, I'm still not feeling the hottest, so I'm just making a video now just so I can put it on and have something just so I don't get out of the habit of making content. So I'm going to be stopping this video throughout just when I'm coughing, gagging, so you guys really don't have to hear it. And things like that. So the tea that I'm drinking today, so it has no alcohol today, just because I don't feel too hot. It is from Yogi Tea. It is called Throat Clearer. I think that's what it is. Let me double check real quick. Alright, so the tea is called is called Throat Comfort. Yeah, throat clearer sounds like a weird technique that is used in an adult movie. But anyways, guys, so I'm going to be starting this video. I'm going to be talking about the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, and I'm going to be talking about the different units that I really like, and explain a little bit more about it. So with that said, I am going to start the video now. Hey Tyler, what's up, man? So, this is Warhammer 40,000. Alright, today I'm going to be talking about some units and name characters that I like a lot in the series. So, with this is, first starting out is with the Cadians. There is one guy everyone knows about in Cadia. This guy is Lord Castellan Ukarsk Creed. So this guy is like one of the highest ranking members, one of the highest ranking officers in Creed. We're talking about he's like the general above generals, commander above commanders kind of guy. So Creed, this guy leads, he's the commander of the Cadian 8th. So the Cadian 8th is known as one of the strongest, one of the most well organized, best fighting forces in Cadia. The Cadia 8th is kind of like the unit that all units want to be. But we're talking about this thing is beyond beyond like a regiment. This thing is more like a brigade. So a brigade in the military is there's like the companies you have, then there's your then you have your battalions, which have multiple different companies in it, and then you would have a brigade that has multiple different regiments in, or multiple different like regiments in it. It would have all those companies, all those brigades, and then any regiments that they form. So regiments are smaller than brigades, but brigades can be smaller than regiments, but brigades usually have regiments in them. That's why they're so big. A little bit confusing, but just roll with it. Just like say, whatever, it doesn't matter. While really to this, so Creed, his story is he was an orphan child. So he was orphaned, and then he decided to join the White Shields. So with Cadia, they have a unit of people, so they're wearing their normal Cadian armor and everything like that. It's just that they have white stripes on their helmets, on their shoulder pads, and their chests. They're known as the White Shields. Best thing to think of them as conscripts. That's what Cadia used for conscripts. Conscripts are just regular people. Even if you're on Cadia, you're trained to be a soldier, but if you're a conscript, you're not trained at the level of to becoming a better soldier. So the White Shields are just usually younger people and whatever they have, and they're just tossed into unit and meant to fight. After they serve their tour, they're good, and then they have a choice to leave or join an actual unit. Because instead of having to go through like a year-long training, they pretty much go to a year-long deployment. So, Creed started as that. He earned his way up, rose the ranks quickly, and then he earned his command of the White Shields. So he was became a higher, like an officer because of the work he'd done, and people have seen it. Usually, White Shield units have a lot of commissars in there because people freak out and they run away, and the commissars are supposed to keep people in line and ensure that they do their work for a political officer of the Imperium. So yeah, like any means necessary. So if killing a guy in front of 1,000 people means that it's like, oh hey, everybody else is going to fall in line and do what they're supposed to be doing, then he does it. If he has to do like 10 to 100 people, yeah, he will do that. So the commissar saw how, like, good guy, good soldier, was willing to do what he needs to do, taking command. He was given a commission officer. And then he pretty much from that point forward he kept working up and doing what he needs to do to become a higher ranking officer. Creed is known as a tactical genius. The other person, so there is a character in 40k that is the Lord Solar Macharius. So this guy, in the lore, excuse me, in 40k, this guy is a pretty much Alexander the Great. That's what he was. He went around on a big crusade to take over, like to reclaim many sites of humanity after like the Age of Strife that happened after the Horus Heresy. After the Horus Heresy, he started going around and reclaiming worlds for the Imperium. So this guy was known as a tactical genius, great general, leading everyone. A Lord Solar is pretty much the highest rank you can be in the Imperium. This guy is pretty much, he has supreme control of the Imperium's military forces. So kind of like with Rome and their dictator, it was the same thing. Instead of having two consuls to lead Rome and their military, is that they decide to get one person and make them a dictator for 6 months. But with the Lord Solar, there is really no time set for him. And so he just got that rank, got all the military, started leading them pretty much into the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of the known galaxy that they have at the time, that's Imperium space, and they wouldn't follow him, so he just like, okay, whatever. He got pissed at his guys, same kind of speech like Alexander the Great did, and they started heading back to Terra. And then he died during that time when he was trying to go back to Terra. So yeah, he just the space version of Alexander the Great. Now, linking that back to Creed is so they thought Creed was kind of like the second coming of Macarius. So everybody was like, dude, this guy, super smart, everything like that. So Castellan and Creed is pretty much a high commander. We're talking about is like your, I would say like a major or a light colonel in the army. Lord Castellan is clearly a general rank. So yeah, he is a general, but he's known as one of the best generals. He's a name character, people like him, I have his model, and the guy's a pretty big badass, but with the current edition, he disappeared, so no one knows what happened to him. So his daughter, Ursula Creed, came into place and pretty much took over for him. She doesn't have like his same abilities and things, but different unit for sure. Different style. Alright, now let's moving on to our next person. That is Knight Commander Pask. So Pask is yeah, his rank is Knight Commander, but he is a tank commander. So he is known as one of the in KDO one of the best known tank aces there is. So he first started out as a small, like a sergeant in a tank, pretty much the gunnery sergeant. And his tank that he was in was called the Hand of Steel. Okay, so what happened was that they were in an engagement where they're fighting orcs and Eldar. So orcs are, what do you think they are? But they're space orcs. So it's ORK. And Eldar, they are space elves. Alright, that's pretty much what they are. So, Knight Commander, Pask, he was in there. He was, his tank was going around and fighting. And then it was almost destroyed. And then the commander was killed. He pretty much jumped in, started taking command, ordering the driver, going around. And then he ended up taking out an Eldar fire prism, that's one of their tanks, and then some orcs taken out, and then his vehicle finally died, was destroyed. But he just does not die. He gets out of that destroyed tank, goes to another tank, jumps in there, takes command of that tank. And then he just kept doing that during that whole battle. During that battle, they saw him and what he's willing to do, and just how badass he was. So they made him a tank commander, and he became an ace, and then eventually he became the highest ranking ace and one of the most well-known aces there is. And the guy, so the picture of the guy, he is ugly. So let's not beat around the bush. The guy is scarred up beyond belief because whenever his tank is destroyed, he does not die. He just gets out and then goes to another tank and takes command of that tank. So in the lore, this guy is almost unkillable. But because of the game, is when he dies, his unit is out. But I would like, it would be nice is that in the lore, is that if he would die, his unit would be destroyed, removed from the field, then replace another Lehman Russ with a Pask, with Knight Commander Pask tank. Yeah, something like that would be pretty nice. Just it shows the lore is oh yeah, you destroyed his tank, but he got out, went to another tank, and started taking command of that tank. That was some lore in the older versions of 40k, when it was more lore-based, the game. But with the newer ones, no, they don't have that, because that's a very powerful ability for the best tank ace to have multiple lives. Okay, now moving on to the next one. So this is Katachan. This guy is called Colonel Ironhand Strachan. This guy is like Rambo. So this guy has fought in more battlefields, has suffered more wounds and survived, has killed more things than a regiment of men having hot meals in their life. So that's pretty much what the description says on his thing. But I do like how they describe it because it does make sense. This guy has fought and done a lot. So Iron Hand Strachan, why he's called that, is because his right arm was removed by a Katachan devil. So a Katachan devil is just a crazy thing in Katachan, like a big centipede monster that's 100 feet long. So big thing. So he lost his arm and it was replaced with a very detailed, high-quality mechanical arm. So that's why he's known as Iron Hand Strachan, because he carries his favorite weapon that is called the Tiger's Tooth or something like that. So the weapon that he uses with his right arm, his bionic arm, is called the Devil's Claw. So it's a customized Katachan blade. And with him being a Katachan, him with a bionic arm, this guy is literally strong enough where he can fight Marines with that arm. And in lore, there's times where he's fought Chaos Marines, and with that knife and his bionic arm, he's cut through their armor and killed Space Marines. So this guy is a badass. Nothing you can really say besides that. This guy's kicking butt, doing stuff. One of his favorite phrases is I've seen that, I've been there, I've killed it. So that's an ability he uses that pretty much allows the unit that he's attached to deal extra damage or re-rolls of rolls on monsters. And that's actually a big thing because the Catachans, they are more geared to melee than other than other Imperial Guard units are, just because they have the extra strength and since they're just like buff people. So yeah, this guy he's one of my favorite characters. It's a little bit hard to explain him well without me going kind of like in a tirade about that, because there's a lot of different things with him. So I'm just trying to limit it just so I don't fill the whole video up of just me talking about Colonel Iron Hand Strachan. So yeah, that's his title. He's Colonel Strachan, and he is known as the Iron Hand, the Catachan's Man of Admetanium. So yeah, like the Wolverine medal. Same kind of thing, because this guy just refuses to die no matter what happens. And in another character in the Catachans, this guy is called Gunny Sergeant Harkin. So this guy is known to be one of the toughest. Like the Catachans are known being tough, being strong. This guy is beyond that. This guy is like a super Catachan. Not at the level of Colonel Strachan, but still pretty badass. So he's a sergeant. He's really got a name for himself. What he does is he carries a weapon that is called a heavy bolter, which I've explained, the machine gun version of a bolter. Most people are unable to carry it and use it unless they mount it on the ground first, then they can use it. This guy is so badass, he just holds it by himself and runs around and shoots with it. So one of his abilities is that it's not considered a heavy weapon for him, so he's able to move and shoot without any penalty. And then he does have the ability to reroll, give rerolls to other units that are around him, and this guy is another great leader. So people usually pair him and Colonel Strachan together because they make a group of Catachan warriors just so much stronger. Because Catachans are already strong. Then you have the guy that increases their strength even more and allows them to reroll. Then you have a guy that allows them to, well, I take that back. So you got one guy who gives him like an invuln save or something like that, and then lets him reroll. You have the other guy who increases their, oh wait, I remember now. So Colonel Strachan increases their strength by one more, and then allows them to reroll any failed hits. Then Sergeant Harkin gives him an extra hit in melee. So you would have those two together, and then you would also have a Imperial Priest. So a priest, one of their abilities is that they can give everyone around them an extra hit in melee. So you would just make a blob of Catachan that are melee orientated and having those guys in the center, and then you have a group of Catachans that are hitting a group of 10 Catachans running at a unit, and each one of them have 4 attacks each. So that's 40 hits each one of them are doing, and they get to reroll on top of it. And plus they do get a bonus too for charging, so it's a lot of hits. It's actually pretty devastating. I had a game where I played that, charged a group into a unit like that, took out several of their units, and after that the person I was playing moved all of their units away and tried to hit them through of range, just because they knew is that in melee these guys, guardsmen on top of it all, are they're too strong. But yeah, Gunnery Sergeant Harkin, yeah, a nice unit, pretty cool unit, but he's kind of like just a super tough Rambo-like guy that just doesn't have much of a personality. Yeah, his personality is like he likes to fight and he's super tough. So it's kind of like you have your pretty much your dunce character that's a good fighter. All right, and then one character that is a lot of people's favorite, So this guy is Commissar Yarick. So Yarick is a commissar. His big thing is that he has one of his arms was removed during a fight, and then so he was fighting. Okay, let me restart. So Yarick got to fame during the Second War of Armageddon. There was one hive city that he was in. It was called Hades Hive. So there was a orc war boss known as one of the strongest orc war bosses there are, Gazgul Thraka, which is a weird name, but just let's go with it. So Gazgul Thraka is another known character, another named character in the series that has their own model, multiple actually. So during that siege, he took command of the Imperial Guard units, and he was the leader of that. So he caused such a great defense and such a line that the orcs could not budget no matter what they did. And the orcs, yeah, they're orcs, but they love a good fight. So Gazgul Thraka, that warlord, like the highest, like, so one of the most badass orc warlords there is, saw how badass Yarick is. So instead of him destroying them all, he's like, hey, we want this guy to live. Because look, he gave us one of the best fights we've ever had, he told his other orcs. And they all agreed, yeah, this is a great fight. So he left and then let the city rebuild just so that they would be at a level again that where they can fight and give the orcs another awesome fight that they love. So that's kind of like the silliness of it. So Yarick is he is almost unkillable because the orcs. So this is purely because of the orcs. The orcs, they all have latent psychic powers that when they are all together, they create a psychic field that is known as the Wog field. So Wog is what the orcs call war in their language. Okay, so it's the war field, the Wog field. So with that, they believe, okay, anything that they believe hard enough, it becomes a thing because of the psychic powers in the Wog field changes reality to what they want. So if they're trying to paint their vehicles red and one guy runs over to the lake with a bucket, fills it up with water, runs there, I got red paint, all the other orcs look and guess what? It's red paint because they all believe it's red paint. If the orcs are in space and they're fighting in space and they're not wearing their helmets, they're surviving, breathing like normal. It's just because they didn't know they're not supposed to breathe in space. So there's lots of silliness with the orcs. Yeah, the orcs have lots of silliness, lots of craziness. So now back to Yarick. The orcs believe Yarick is unkillable. So literally this guy can suffer such horrendous wounds and such horrible like injuries, things like that. And he lives, he survives, or he heals so quickly. They even have that as a thing in the lore, is when his wounds are down to the last wound, is that you roll a dice. And if you get a 3+ or higher on the d6, is that he does not lose that wound. So it's just like whatever wound will cause him to lose that last wound, all of it's negated. That's how they keep him around. So the reason why they have his lore ability in the game compared to Pask is that he's a single commissar. Just one unit, one guy that has a power claw, so he's a little bit stronger than normal, and he has 2 guns, and he can lead a unit. So they have that. And it's just a lot easier to have a single unit that isn't terribly strong compared to a tank, which is actually very strong. Since the Imperial Guard in the game, their tanks are some of the best tanks in the game. Just with how cheap they are, their armor defense, and the damage they can output, they are some of the best tanks in the game. Alright, now with Yarick so he fought another war boss. Well, with orcs, they had their little clans and little gangs where they all have a little war boss leading it. So Gazgul Thraka is the warlord. He has multiple gangs under him and multiple war bosses listening to him. So Gazgul Thraka's gang is the biggest, strongest gang. They're known as the Goths. So Goff. So that is his gang. That is his big. Well, that's his faction, the Goths, and then multiple gangs within the Goths are under him. So one day, Yark is out in the field fighting. He sees this orc warlord or war boss. So war boss is lower than warlord. So war boss, he goes up there, he fights him, he's able to kill him, but he suffered a wound. He lost his right arm, and because orcs believe he's unkillable, he did not die from blood loss and everything else. So what he did was he took out his sword, cut off the orc's power, like power claw. So a power claw is just it's like the power fist. It's a giant contraption that goes over your whole arm that you can use, and that pretty much increases your strength greatly in that arm and has the disruptor field. Same thing. But it works with orc technology, and most orc technology literally works off of duct tape and wishes, and it does work. So with that, is he cut off the orc's arm, then he went to the medic. Still missing arm, still bleeding, but he's not going to die because the orcs think he's unkillable, so he will not die. He goes up to one of the medics and he's like, hey, sew this arm onto me. And then he sewed that arm onto him, and then he started walking to the orcs, and the orcs saw he had a power claw arm. And because orcs saw that, orcs know what the power claw is, so after that arm was sewed onto him, it is like, we're talking about super shitty sew on an orc arm in the power claw. And the orcs saw that, so they're just like, oh crap, he has a power claw. That arm started working, and he was able to use it as if it was his normal arm, because the orcs' craziness works. So the orcs also believe is that his eyes, he can kill someone just by looking at them. How badass Yark is. So Yark decided to have one of his eyes removed and then replaced with the Bell Eye. So the Bell Eye is a name that Yark was called by many of the orcs, Old Bell Eye. So he had one of his eyes removed, replaced by a mechanical eye, and then it was put a laser generator in there. So he could literally kill orcs with a look. And we're talking about the actual laser itself is a very low-level laser that can do little damage, but because the orcs believe it can kill an orc in a single, he can kill an orc with a look, is that if an orc is wounded by that weapon, an orc instantly dies. So yeah, the lore of him is actually in the game, which is pretty darn fun. And then with the orc lore and everything is Gazgul and Yark fight all the time, because Armageddon is one of the homes that's where Yark lives, and that's where his defense is. So, in the lore, Yark has killed Gazgul multiple times. But because the orcs also believe he's unkillable, is that what they do is they just take his head, Gazgul Thraka's head, goes to another orc's body, cut off their head, and put that head on there. And then the orc doctors, while the orc doctors are called pain boys. And literally their power works with their medical technology, literally works by freaking thread and orc wishes, and it works. So they just kill a big orc, cut off their head, put a Gazgul's head on it, and then sew his head there, and then slap Gazgul's face, and then Gazgul wakes up, and then his body turns. That body becomes his body, and then he keeps going. Because they know Yark can kill Gazgul, but they know if they put Gazgul's head on another body, he can come back to life. So that's what they keep doing. And it is a craziness. It is fun. You probably can hear it in my voice, the silliness of it. But yeah, that is what it is. Commissar Yark is one of the best commissars, just his lore is craziness. Several different models he's had. It's fun. So, this other character, he's part of the Catachans. but he was removed from the catachans, and then just he goes around. So this guy is an orc, or I mean not an orc, he's an ogren. So I've talked about that. They're just pretty much humans that are like 10 feet tall, overly buff because they're from a planet that humanity did not need a brain to. They needed stronger bodies instead of brains, so their brains shrunk and their bodies got bigger. So this guy is called Nork Dead Dog. So Nork Dead Dog is known as one of the smartest ogrens there is. Like, this guy can talk in full sentences easily. This guy can count up to 5, which is like people piss themselves when they hear that, like, oh shit, this is the smartest ogren we've ever seen. So they saw him, they put the bonehead implant in him, and then he became smart enough that where he's like a instead of like a 3-year-old child, he's like a 6-year-old child, which is huge for ogrens. So the lore of Nork Dead Dog is that he was assigned to the Catachan unit, and he was a bodyguard for a Colonel Griss. So Colonel Griss is not an actual real like character. He's just a character for the lore of Nork. So he's an old colonel, and after all the bonehead implants and everything to make him smarter, he's like a 6-year-old child. So he's willing to do whatever he can. 6-year-old child with a body that is like 400 pounds, overly buff, and 10 feet tall. So yeah, like we're talking about someone strong enough that they can easily flip over a tank. Just bloof. Okay, so he's there guarding Griss. And what got him kind of famous was that there was an attack that happened. Griss Griss pretty much ran away. And then Nort was there. And Nort, he's buddy with everyone. Because it's like, oh, it's the smartest ogren there is. And he's buddies with everyone. So yeah, is that he saw all the guardsmen around dying. And then he got mad and freaked out. And he started killing all the enemies. And they were fighting orcs at the time. So Griss ran away. And then because Griss ran away, left all of the the guardsmen without orders on what to do. He started seeing the guardsmen dying. He flipped out and he just started going on a rampage, killing every single orc he can see. And just like crazy because he's seen all his friends are dying because everyone's his friend. And he's just slaughtering everyone, and because of that rage that he had, he won the battle for the Catachans at that time. And then when they found Colonel Griss, he was dead because an orc killed him. So because of that is that he is known as one of the best Ogren bodyguards there is. He's the smartest, he's one of the strongest, and one of the most famous Ogren bodyguards. And we're talking about he has like so many abilities that if you have him with an officer within 3 inches of his model, is that the officer gets so many different abilities. And this guy is a tank to take out. Yeah, he might be a normal Ogren, but he has more wounds than normal. He has better armor. He has an invuln save. It's just like they try to make this guy hard to take out, which makes sense with the lore. So he's a fun little guy to play with. I have his model. I do use him as Ogren bodyguard, but he's a named character, so you can only have one of him. And it's just fun. It's just like, if you're playing Catachans, why not bring Nort? Because he was attached with Catachan, so let him fight with his buddies, the Catachans. And then another named character, name unit, it is the Gaunt's Ghost. I talked about them last video. It is a Tanith first and only unit. It is a special unit that they all have stealth. They're all harder to hit. And they're a command unit, so they can give out orders. But they're a command unit. That's the unit. The leader is Ibrahim Gaunt. He is a character made for the book series Gaunt's Ghost. And they made a model of him because he's just very, very popular book series, very popular character. The book series was made by an artist that is called Dan Abbott, or writer Dan Abbott. Dan Abbott has multiple different, like this guy has a lot of different things he's written. He's written several scripts. I'm talking about lots of scripts for Doctor Who, for for like Sherlock, many different shows. They actually use him quite a lot for just writing. He's a good writer. He has multiple books, multiple New York Times bestsellers. So this guy, when he writes actually very well. And his books are actually quite easy to read too. And then, especially like in the beginning, is that he really starts out with like something that happens that kind of just hooks you in. Is like one excerpt I was seeing of like a book, how it started is, so this guy just wakes up, and he wakes up, sees that there's blood on his head, sees there's dead bodies around, and he's like, hey, well, I guess I'm a ghost. And he starts walking around, someone starts yelling at him, is like, why do I care, I'm a ghost. And then and the guy keeps yelling at him, and then he starts feeling the pain now. So the guy realizes he's a sergeant. He's a sergeant in this group of the Gaunt's Ghosts. And he's in a spaceship that just got hit and major damage. And then he's like, oh crap, we need to put out the fires and stuff like that. And just the way he talks about it, like the first like page of starting it out like that just gets you hooked. It's just like, what the hell's going on? Like, okay, this is a little bit crazy, and then it just starts going into the action. It's good. Yeah, check out the Gaunt's Ghosts. There's a whole bunch of Gaunt's Ghosts. We're talking about, I think there's like a 10-book series right now. And Dan Abnett writes a whole bunch of other things. So if you want to read something sci-fi, check out something from Dan Abnett. There's a whole bunch of other name characters in the Guard, but the ones I'm talking about are the ones that actually had models in the game. And like with GW, they care more about the actual they care more about the game than the lore. So with GW, whatever the game does will trump the lore anytime, which is kind of annoying because the lore is actually pretty good, you know? But with all that said and all that craziness, man, I'm going to let you go. And I'm probably going to be going to bed because I'm still sick, not feeling the best. So I'm glad I'm talking to you through YouTube just so I don't get you sick. But I'm guessing it's not something that's contagious, because I think it's more just like a slight lymph node infection that happened, because I don't know what happened. I literally ate some bread. After I was doing some work, I went to go wash my hands and ate some bread. I'm guessing I probably didn't wash my hands well enough, and then it got me sick. But alright then, bro. So, I'll talk to you later, and everyone else, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and remember to always love the Kellhound. You all take care now.